Glad to have you back. Today I finished up a sunrise painting, calling it Smoky Mountain Sunrise. It's got lots of colors in the sky with some distant mountains, the blue mountains, with coming forward with the hills and the treetops. I think you're going to really love painting this one. So you'll notice just about toward the end of the painting, I changed the clouds a little bit. They were just a little bit too streaky blue, light and dark. I didn't really care for them, so I softened them up a little bit. I put a little red and orange, a little red and yellow over the blue streaks. You can just barely see them now. I think it looks a lot nicer. But you can leave yours blue if you like. That's totally up to you. I really enjoy doing this one. I hope you can follow me, pause and paint. So let's get started. So here are the paints I used: acrylics, cad yellow, Winton Newton oils, liquid white, titanium white, phthalo blue, black, Van Dyke brown, sap green, cad yellow, and red. So now I've prepared my canvas with a little bit of acrylic cad yellow right in the upper, off to the center a little bit, with a little cad yellow, and let it dry. Then I've got some contact paper, and I cut out a little 1-inch circle, and you can use you can use the end of a like the cap off of your oil paints there. That's a good circle. Or my husband found me a washer that was a 1-inch circle, and that was really good, so I just traced that onto my contact paper and cut it out and took off the back. I let that yellow dry real good, and then I peeled that off. I put the clear right where I wanted it, right on top of that yellow. And then just press it on really good. And let that, make sure it's on real secure. And then from there I got a little liquid white. I'm going to put liquid white all over the front of my canvas. Right over the top of that yellow and over your little circle. Just do the whole thing in white. You can take a little shop rag and take off the excess white if you want, but just make sure you have a nice even coat. So now I'm going into oils, cad yellow oil, and doing a little sunlight up on the top, few little streaks here and there. And then I'm going into a little bit of red and yellow, which make orange. And I'm going to put a little of that right underneath that sunlight there. And just make nice, easy, straight strokes across. Nice and even, and just bring that down. Some areas will be a little bit lighter, some will be darker. Tend to have it a little darker on the top a little bit, corners. And once you get it all on, about not quite halfway down. Now here's where I told you in the beginning I took out my blue clouds, but I'm going to show you how I did them. I saved the clip so you can see how I put the blue skies clouds in there in case you wanted to do blue clouds. That's fine. Just be careful though, with the blue and the yellow makes green, so you've got to be a little careful. Add a little red to make more of a violet blue, and that does help a lot. And I just put streaks in there of little blue clouds. Here and there, and underneath the sun there and alongside. Continue on to make more, I guess they are more lavender with the red mix. I took my little piece of contact paper off, got a nice bright sun there, put a little bit of orange underneath, and blended it in with the blue. So now I'm going into a kind of a very light blue there. I'm just going to go into that. But I'm making a light blue for my mountains. I'm going to start out far, far in the distance, because they're real pale in the distance, and then as they come forward, I'm going to make them darker. But for now, I'm making them really kind of a powder, very powdery blue. And that's phthalo. I'm using phthalo blue. Don't want a lot on there, but I'm going to put just a little bit darker underneath that top line. I'm not going to spread the whole thing with the same color. I'm going to add some white under that to fade in there, because that's so far in the distance and I want it very, very light. But the top of the line I want just a little tiny bit darker, but not much. Just going to etch out the top of that mountain. And underneath I'm going to add some white, because the white will pick up that blue and it'll just be, end up to be more of a powder blue there. But I'm adding more white underneath because I want it to be very, very light, like a mist. I'm creating a mist. And bring that down a little bit, soften it up with a brush. And I'm taking another little brush. It's got just a tad darker, not much, but I'm just making some extra little lines in there for little ridges, mountain ridges that are within the mountain, just to give it a little depth. And I'm going to fill those in. And I can tap that in. I'm not going to brush real smooth because I want it to have a little bit of texture to it. So it gives the impression that there are some little trees way far in the distance. So now I'm etching out another big mountain that's on the right there. Just kind of etching. I want it to come just below the sun and below those clouds. And it's going to kind of overlap that first mountain we put in. So it's going to be like layer after layer of ridges, mountain ridges, ranges, I don't know what you call them, but they're ridges. Kind of looking at a photograph there to see exactly where I want to put them. But once I get the line in, then I'm good to go. Then I'll be able to fill in got a little filbert there. I'm just gonna put a little ridge. Oh, there's a ridge and a ridge, you know, right below that mountain. Filling in real light blue. And as I'm working my way up, the top edge, yes, it's going to be a little darker, just a little bit. And then I'm going to add white under that, so I'll blend it down so it'll be kind of a misty area at the base of those mountains. But I want to get the top line. I'm using a little fan brush, just lifting up a little bit to give indications of little back trees way in the distance, and you will be able to see them. And once I get those in, then you'll see I'm just going to blend down a little bit, tapping. I'm not really brushing real smooth. I want a little texture look to it. Doing a little bit, pulling that down a little bit. Because as we come forward, they will be darker. So I've added some white, I've buffed it out a little bit, tapping, brushing really to smooth it out, pulling some of that blue down a little more. But I want that misty look at the base of those mountains. So I'm going into a little dark now, phthalo. And I'm going to bring in another ridge that's going to be right in front of it. But I want to go just below some of that mist. I want to leave some of that misty light in there. Because it's early morning sunrise and the mist and the dew is at the base of the mountains and the crevices. It's going to look really cool. So I'm going in with a little darker blue, doing that top ridge. You don't have to worry about the orange because the blue will cover. I wasn't sure how far down the orange I should go, but that's okay. The blue, like I say, the blue will cover it. And just smooth it out, tap it in, and I added white underneath that, and I just buffed it real smooth. I'm going to put another ridge under that misty line under the base of that mountain. So I don't want to cover that white up. I want that mist to show. So I'm shaping another ridge. Kind of little circular motions with that brush, and continue on. I'm making another little peak, preserving some of that mist. And then I'll come down, swoop down, arc there. Just make another little upswing a little bit and over. So now I got the line of the ridge there. So I'm kind of taking a little bit of that excess off, but I'm leaving some of the darker areas in there, little circular motions. I'll be adding some white under that to create more mist. The liquid white that's already down isn't just quite enough. You need to use titanium white to bring out that misty look. Figuring out the angle here, how I want to go. I'm going to have a valley that's going to come down, and that valley is going to be really light. And I've tapped, see how I've tapped in the valley, very light, and the right side's a little darker. That's okay. You just tap, don't pull your brush across to make it totally smooth. You want that texture. You want it to look like there's trees in there. And tap a little more on the top of that peak there. Bring it down a little bit. Soften it up. And you could use a 1-inch, I guess, to tap and pull some of that down. I happen to like the smaller brush this time because I can put some little dents in there. It makes it look like little trees. Just little circular motions with the softening with the lighter color with white, and it all will blend together there. Just bringing in some more white. And blending up into that dark, just kind of bringing a little of that white and then brushing across. And I think I'm going to add one more big ridge. Okay, so I'm taking some of that phthalo blue, kind of a washed out phthalo blue. Washed out meaning I tap my brush first so it's not real dark. I'm just kind of pulling that down, and now I'm going to form the ridge. Again, another little drop off there. Softening that blue up. Picking up a little bit of the liquid white underneath, and you'll see it gives you a little variation of color there, light and dark. And I'm just pulling a little bit of the blue down. I don't even have to add white to my brush there because I got liquid white underneath. But I'm just trying, and then wiping my brush off every time. Just perfecting the base of that ridge. And tapping in, just lightly tapping in. Okay, so now I am going into some sap green and a little bit of the phthalo blue. I'm making a real pretty bluish green. And I'm going to tap in some forest-like foliage, trees on that distant hill there. Just tapping, kind of keeping a straight line because the trees, you know, I want to give it a realistic look. Leaving some of those light areas and the dark areas in there. and then softening that whole bottom edge a little bit. Now I'm going into phthalo blue with a touch of sap green. I made a really dark color. I'm going to go and make some the back ridge, like a back hill there. It's going to have some distant trees. I'm just kind of tapping down on with my fan brush, creating a little bit of some bumps there that looks kind of like the treetops. Coming into that open area there, I'm going to tap right at the base there, leaving that light area alone, and follow through from the top and just work my way down, leaving some of the light areas in there, creating background trees in the distance. So now I've added a little more sap green in the middle and a little bit of Van Dyke brown, just a little bit, and maybe even just a touch of red, but just making that dark color, and it'll go darker and darker as we come forward to the bottom of the canvas. Now up there, I'm doing a little bit lighter sap green, because well, there's different variations of trees in there and hills, and I wanted a little bit lighter, but now darker toward the bottom. I'm going really dark with sap green, a little bit of the phthalo, maybe even a touch of Van Dyke brown, because I want it really dark. And holding my fan brush kind of vertical now here and there, creating some evergreens. Just putting some background color in for when we start highlighting. Just tapping in, lifting up. Sap green with a touch of phthalo, just tapping upward. I'm not going to go all the way, maybe to the base of that mountain a little bit, but I'm creating some trees, pushing up. There, I'm going just right into that blue, just a little bit. It's going to be higher than that edge, and then I'll gradually come down. I want to leave some of that misty fog. That's right there. I want to leave some of that alone. It kind of creates a cool looking little valley, a misty looking valley there. Tapping more of the sap green, looking a little more realistic. Okay, I'm going into some really dark sap green and a little bit of phthalo, a little bit of brown. I'm going to make some dark areas in there, just kind of give it some depth. Creating some dark, like Bob Ross used to say, without the dark there is no light. Well, that's really true, because when we start adding our highlights, they'll just pop. It'll give it so much more depth when we have those dark areas. Now I have this little brush I've had for years. I call it a scruffy brush. It has really short little bristles. You could use the end of a 1 inch too, just tapping in. I'm just tapping in some little bit of sap green with a little bit of yellow. Just the treetops in the distance there in the valley, just a little bit before I start really putting in those big ones. So here I've got my 1 inch. I'm doing the larger ones with pretty much cad yellow with a little bit of white, and I'm just gently shaping the tops of these beautiful trees, just pushing ever so lightly. Don't they look pretty? Really making it pop, doesn't it? It just looks really, really neat. And I may even add a little bit of color in those on treetops, maybe with a little bit of red and yellow, because that sunrise is so bright, and I think it probably should have a little bit of color. So once I get my regular treetops the way I want them, I am going to put a little bit of color in there, just ever so lightly. I love how it comes out like that when it's the trees in the distance, gradually getting bigger. I almost see a finished painting here. There I go into my light orange and giving that a little bit of color. So I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. So until next time, happy painting and God bless.